Hey, welcome to Drafting 1127. This is the Architectural 3D Modeling class, and we are going to have a lot of fun learning Revit. And so this video is going to be explaining about just the user interface, what you see when you open Revit or open a project and what the different things do. So I'm starting out with Revit just as if when you install it and you open it. Well, mine has a few changes, but nothing major. Okay. Before I start with that, I want to show you this, and you're gonna, if you've never seen one of these, you're gonna freak out. Okay. I use just a minute. Okay. I use this Space Mouse wireless kit. So what it is, you've got a puck right here that controls zoom and pan and orbit and stuff like that. And then a wireless mouse that's got a couple of extra buttons on it. Yeah, they're kind of pricey. We have a few sets in the lab that you can use in the lab if you're going to be working in the lab if you want. But this thing really makes a huge difference when you're working in a 3D environment. Okay, it's not necessary, but I just, and you can purchase it just the puck itself. Let's see here. The Space Mouse wireless or the compact, either one is. So the wireless one is $169. They're really cool as far as how you can manipulate your 3D object. Okay, so enough of that. All right, when you open Revit, this is your home screen when it opens up. We'll be dealing with models and families. Now, models are just that. They are a project that you're working on. Families are the things that go in the project. Okay, so it's your catalog of database of all your objects. We do a little bit of edit. We do a lot of editing of families, and we do a little bit of creation of families in the class. So you'll get a lot of exposure to them. Okay, so a family, a door is a family. Okay, a window is a family. Things that go into your project, and so models are your models. And so if you're going to start a new model, we go right here, and you choose a template. And almost in this program, okay, at Chatt-Tech, you are, I'd say, almost always going to start with the Imperial Architectural template. Okay. There's actually more templates than that. So just to show you, here are all of the templates that are provided with Revit. So depending on where you're working and what you're doing, you may want one of these other templates instead. Yes, there is a residential template, but I do not want you to use that because I want you to learn how to manipulate Revit, creating and naming levels, creating and naming views and sheets and things like that. So we're pretty much always going to start with this Imperial Architectural template. Okay. All right, and when it opens up, here's what you've got. Now, I have a couple of add-ins installed on my computer. Okay, so I have Bluebeam installed, and so it's an add-in here, and so there's some Bluebeam tools here. You will be installing Bluebeam as part of the 1129 class to do some work with that, and I'll address Bluebeam in that class. Okay. All right, so we start out here. We've got our drawing area. Okay, right here, the big white screen. These little boxes are the elevation markers. And so this is the south elevation. Pretty much in architectural design, when we're designing the project, the front of the project is always at the bottom of the sheet, which is the south view. Okay, because we're looking at the paper. It may not be in the actual southerly direction on the ground, which we change that when we do a site plan. But for all intents and purposes, this is the south view, or the south elevation, and that's what it's called over here. So these are the elevation markers. No big deal on those. Okay, over here. Here you have the properties palette. And whatever you select is actively selected in the drawings. The properties will show up right here for you. And so for a floor plan, which is what we're in now, if we look at the properties, we can set the scale of it here. There's lots of things that we can change and cover. And I'm not going to cover all of them in this video, okay? But that's the properties palette. Down below, you have the project browser, which is kind of like your index or your table of contents for your project of what you've got created right now. Right now, this particular template has a level 1, a level 2, and a site floor plan. And then it has ceiling plans, a level 1, level 2 ceiling plans. And then it has the 4 exterior elevations. And there are no legends, schedules, or sheets created because, see, there's no little plus mark right there. Okay, now families, if we expand that, these are families that are preloaded in this template as it comes from Autodesk. Okay, and so if we expand doors, we can see that single flush doors are installed, and then we've got all these different sizes of doors that we can use. Okay, so that's just an example. And within the project browser, okay, I've got more notes on that later, so I'll deal with those things later. Across the top up here, whatever you've got open, it shows it right here. It shows you what version of the software you're using, because a lot of companies will have multiple versions installed on their computers. The reason for this is if you open a project in a newer version of the software and save it, you will never be able to open it again in an older version of the software. Okay? It is not backwards compatible. So that's why at this point in time, we are doing everything in 2023 versions of the software. If you install 2024 at home, I will not be able to open your file when you send it in to me. And there's nothing I can do about that, okay? It's just the way of the world. So the across top tells you what version of software you've got running and what the name of the project is and where you're at in the project. So this project has not been saved yet, so it's just called Project 1, and we're on floor plan level 1. Okay, if I were to open the ceiling plan, okay, we haven't built anything, so it doesn't look any different, but you see right up here, it tells me reflected ceiling plan level 2. And you can notice here, notice the icons for the reflected ceiling plan has like a little grid to indicate ceilings, okay, in there. And then a floor plan just has a blank sheet. Okay, all right, so the over here to the left, we have what's called the quick access toolbar. Okay, and so here's like your open, your save, print, create a PDF of sheets, okay. A measure tool, which is just a measuring, okay. And then a dimension tool. Tag, we'll talk about tags later. Text command. The home button, it looks like a home, okay, but it is your 3D view. And so you click that and it goes to the default 3D of your project. Okay. One thing right here, thin lines. You want to turn on thin lines when you're working and creating your design. Okay, because some of these, some of the lines and the things are kind of thick because of what they indicate. And it's much easier to work if you always turn on thin lines. Just remember that. Okay, moving across, close inactive views, will close everything else. Switch windows if you got multiple, multiple views open across here. And, you may end up, with like multiple, so many views you can't see the tabs across here. And you can switch back and forth there. Okay, so over here to the right is what we call the info center. I don't know, I rarely sign into my Autodesk account, but you may have to at some point. You can, here's your help screen. Okay, if you need help, if you want to type in questions, go to the Autodesk help site. There's where you do it. Okay, so the menu structure for this program is all right here. So we've got these tabs up here across the top. And then we've got the ribbon below, which is very similar to a lot of softwares now. And things are grouped together based on what they do. And so most of your architectural building stuff is here on this tab, architecture. Okay, so you've got the build palette here. Circulation is like stairs and ramps and things. Model, where you could do text and lines in the model. Rooms, openings, datums, things like that. Okay. Structure, we will be dealing with structure a little bit. Okay, in the class, this is where you put in a beam, a structural wall, okay, of types, structural columns, structural floors, things like that. Okay, foundations will come here. So we'll deal with some of those. Annotate, here's where you'll do dimensioning. Okay, lots of dimensioning. Detail lines and regions is for like drawing lines and drawing hatches. So we got different things right across here. The view tab here, you can go to views, you can create sections, creating callouts, which we'll do with those. If you need to create new plan views, new elevation views, that's right here. If you ever lose something, like say you've closed the properties or you've closed the browser accidentally, you come over here to user interface, and here's where things are marked turned on or turned off. Okay. Should you perchance hit this little button right here, what it does is it cycles through the palettes. Okay. And so if you accidentally click it and then your menu looks like this, it's like, oh, don't freak. Just click it again. Okay. And then it will cycle back. Okay. Up here on the quick access toolbar. These are things that can be turned on or turned off. Okay. Or you can add additional things to it if you want. Okay. So that covered our ribbons and tabs. You'll notice a lot of these, some of these will have pull down. So the wall, we have a pull down below it. That means there's other types of walls below there. We have to choose one. Room and area, if there's a little pull down right below it with the name, there's a few more things there that could come in. Like here on structure, like here reinforcement, there's 3 more items that could be up there. There's just not room for them. On the ones that have the arrow to the right, this is where you would set the program settings. Okay, and we're not going to get into that right now, but that's what that little arrow is for. Okay, so cancel. All right, so the file tab, back over here. Very much like other programs. New, open. If you need to open a project or if you need to open a family, you can do that from here. Saving, save as, export, we will use export to create PDFs of drawings that you're going to turn in. And so you can create a PDF of one drawing or multiple drawings. So we'll be using that. Later in the semester, later in the semester, you'll be coming into the lab to do some printing, okay, on the plotter. Okay, now also in this, you got the options button here. This is program options. And at this point, we're not making changes to any of that stuff. The defaults are pretty good with all of that. Okay. Now, when you are in an active command, this little area right across here is called the options bar. And then when you're in an actual command, so I'm going to do a wall. And so I activated the wall command, and it tells me here, I've got a basic wall, generic 8-inch thick, selected. Here's my options, okay? And so I can tell it height, meaning the wall will go up from the level I'm on. If I go depth, it'll go down from the level I'm on. Connected means unconnected means I can specify a height. Connected means it will go up to level 2, whatever level 2 height is. Location, there's just lots of options across there. So any command that you're in, okay, you get the options up here. And so you need to look at those things, okay, to see what it is you're doing. And then when you activate a command, notice over here, you get command specific, options over here on the side, okay, as far as whatever it is that you're dealing with. Okay, so that was columns. Floor, okay, and so I activate the floor. I got some options here, and then how do I want to sketch my floor, okay, and things like that. So every command that you activate, there'll be something pops up over here to the side. Okay, down here, the bottom status bar across the bottom here. This tells me the view that I've set for this particular, or the scale for this view. This button here is the detail level, which right now is set at coarse. We have medium and fine. Most of the time, you're going to be working in fine detail. Okay, trust me on this. You want to work in fine detail because different families are programmed to display differently based on the detail level of the view. Okay, and you'll see this on some of the objects that we're dealing with. So like some doors, the trim will not show at coarse level, but at fine level, the trim will show. That's just an example, okay? Okay, the next button here is the visual style. Most of the time, I work in hidden line. You can work in shaded. It gives everything color. If you work in realistic, it's going to slow your graphics down because realistic is just that. It's like photorealistic. And it will slow your computer down. Okay, so most of the time I work in hidden line and shaded. Sometimes I flip over to wireframe, depending on the situation. Okay. All right, so some other things here. Sun path, we're not going to worry about that for a couple of classes, and shadows. Okay, crop view and hide and display. We'll deal with these things as we get into some projects, okay? It's just right now they're there. We'll deal with them when we get into some projects, okay? And then over here on the right, this is your navigation bar, and I'll talk about that in a later video. In our 3D view, we have the view cube right here, okay, which you can grab it and turn it and twist it. And it only shows up in a 3D view. Now, I'm going to move my mouse over here, and I'm going to use my wireless mouse. to do all that funky stuff with my wireless mouse, okay? You don't have a wireless mouse, that's okay. Let's see, you can go Shift and then left click your mouse, mash the button on your mouse and you get pan, okay, and orbit and rotate. If you just roll your mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out. If you press down on your mouse wheel, you can pan left and right. Okay, and so now that orbit was hold down the Shift key and hold down the mouse button. Or not the button, the wheel. Okay. All right, so that's at 20 minutes. I'm going to stop this video and then we'll start another one for the rest of the stuff.